The chamber of the Galactic Conclave was built to intimidate. Vast arcs of crystalline alloy rose overhead, refracting starlight into cold spectrums that washed over the assembled delegates. For millennia, this room had been where wars were sanctioned and species reduced to footnotes. Today, it was loud with amusement. Commander Elias Rourke stood alone at the human dais, hands clasped behind his back, posture relaxed to the point of disrespect. He wore no medals, no ceremonial armor, only a plain dark uniform marked by a single insignia at the collar. Compared to the towering alien admirals surrounding him, he looked small. That, Rourke knew, was part of the problem. Kinetic weapons, boomed High Strategist Kothrix, his voice amplified through the chamber's gravity-warped acoustics. Projectile warfare is a relic. Your species persists in throwing rocks and calling it strategy. Laughter rippled through the council. Limbs clattered against armrests. Mandibles clicked in approval. Rourke did not respond. He had learned early that silence unsettled predators more than protest. Kothrix continued, towering over his command throne. Energy defines supremacy. Shields, beams, singularity torpedoes. This is how wars are fought among the stars. And yet humanity requests consideration as a military peer? Another wave of derision followed. Rourke finally lifted his eyes, scanning the chamber. Dozens of species watched him with thinly veiled contempt. They had catalogued humanity thoroughly. Rapid breeders, aggressive history, impressive industrial output, but technologically conservative. No shield innovations. No exotic matter weapons. Railguns and missiles, scaled up and polished, but fundamentally primitive. They believed they understood humans. My species, Rourke said evenly, has never confused fashion with function. That earned a hiss from one corner of the chamber. Before Kothrix could retort, a new voice cut in, sharp, urgent, stripped of ceremony. Conclave priority transmission. The chamber lights dimmed. A tactical projection flared to life above the central well, resolving into the image of a burning world. Orbital platforms fractured under sustained fire. City lights winked out one by one. Rourke recognized the planet instantly. Helios Reach. A frontier colony. Human. An alien commander appeared in the projection, his expression triumphant. This system is now under the protection of the Varkesh Dominion. Human resistance has been neutralized. Survivors are being processed. Silence swallowed the chamber. Rourke felt something cold settle behind his ribs. Not rage, not fear, but focus. He turned back to the council. You see, Kothrix said at last, his tone indulgent, this is why restraint is enforced. Your kind expands too quickly, too recklessly. Consider this a lesson. Withdraw, and you may petition for reparations in. No, Rourke said. The word was quiet, but it carried. Several heads turned. Kothrix's eyes narrowed. You are in no position to. I am requesting authorization, Rourke continued, for a single defensive demonstration. A murmur swept the chamber. A demonstration? Kothrix echoed. With what fleet? Your nearest task group is days away. Rourke allowed himself a thin smile. I won't need a fleet. The council erupted again, this time not with laughter but confusion. Tactical feeds flickered as observers scrambled for data. Kothrix leaned forward. Clarify your statement, human. There is a vessel already within engagement range, Rourke said. It has been there the entire time. The High Strategist studied him, searching for deception, madness, or desperation. What he found instead was certainty, and that unsettled him. Very well, Kothrix said after a moment. The Conclave will permit this demonstration. Not because we expect results, but because your failure will be instructive. You will fire one weapon. One. Rourke inclined his head. That will be sufficient. Minutes later, he stood on the command deck of the EDS Resolute, a ship so unremarkable it bordered on insulting. No glowing spines. No weapon ports bristling with emitters. Just a long, angular hull and a forward structure that looked more industrial than martial. Around him, human officers moved with quiet efficiency. No speeches. No prayers. They had all seen the feed from Helios Reach. Dr. Marcus Hale's voice came over the intercom. Weapon platforms synchronized. Conclave observers linked. Any anomalies? Rourke asked. None they'll notice, Hale replied. They're looking for light. Rourke stepped closer to the viewport. Somewhere beyond the veil of normal perception, an enemy dreadnought hung in orbit over a human world, shields raised, guns hot, utterly confident. Authorization confirmed, an officer said. Conclave is watching. Rourke nodded once. Then, let's not keep them waiting. He placed his hand on the rail beside the command chair, not as a ritual, but as a reminder. Humanity had been mocked for centuries for clinging to mass, momentum, and impact. For believing that if you hit something hard enough, it stayed broken. The galaxy had forgotten a simpler truth. You didn't have to be faster than light. You only had to arrive first. Fire, Rourke said. Nothing happened. No flash. No recoil. No alarm. And far away, before any signal could cross the void to warn it, the enemy flagship ceased to exist. The silence that followed was no longer amused. The EDS Resolute drifted through the void with the serene confidence of a predator that had never needed to roar. Commander Rourke stood at the forward viewport, watching the shimmer of distant stars, yet his mind was anchored to a singular point, the physics of inevitability. Beside him, Dr. Marcus Hale adjusted a holographic display, his slender fingers dancing over controls that shifted atomic-scale schematics of the Railgun platform. Hale, Rourke said, voice calm. Explain it again. Slowly this time. I want the conclave to understand, not just the crew. Hale's pale eyes glinted behind his glasses. The principle is deceptively simple in concept, but devilishly difficult in execution. Conventional railguns accelerate projectiles to relativistic speeds within normal spacetime. Shields, evasion, predictive targeting, all standard countermeasures, function because causality allows time to react. We bypass that entirely. Rourke leaned closer. You mean? Yes. Hale interrupted, not harshly, but with precise finality. The projectile does not travel faster than light through normal space. It exists partially outside the light cone of the target. By the time it intersects, it is already in the past light cone. Shields never had the opportunity to activate. Detection systems never observed it inbound. To the target, it simply happened. Rourke exhaled, letting the weight of the words settle. The conclave will call it sorcery. Or luck. Hale smirked faintly. They will call it everything except physics, which is exactly why it works. They forgot that Newtonian truths don't vanish just because someone mastered FTL travel. They stood together in silence, the hum of the ship's FTL stabilizers a subtle undercurrent to the enormity of their task. The first target had already been marked, a Varkesh dreadnought, the pride of the Dominion's orbital fleet. Its shields were a lattice of energy harmonics, its weapons arrayed in geometrical perfection. To any conventional human fleet, it would have been a death sentence. To the Resolute, it was merely an equation waiting to be solved. Rourke turned to the crew. Check calculations. Synchronize firing nodes. And remind me that no human life is expendable for spectacle. We strike only what is required. Lieutenant Jonas Creel, navigator and tactical officer, nodded. All systems green, Commander. Calculations verified. Targeting vectors ready. Probability of shield penetration, 100%. Rourke allowed a rare grin. That's more confidence than most admirals have in their entire fleets. Hale tapped a command sequence on his console, and the railgun platform hummed to life. The entire assembly seemed impossibly quiet for something capable of tearing through thousands of tons of reinforced hull before a sensor could even notice its approach. You realize they'll call it cheating, Hale said. All their centuries of military doctrine, invalidated by a slug of metal that technically never moved. Rourke nodded. Let them. Humans have spent centuries underestimated, ignored, mocked. Every war we've fought has begun with someone thinking we were slow, weak, or unprepared. Today, we prove that misunderstanding can be fatal. A flash of movement on the tactical display drew their attention. A squadron of light cruisers, dispatched to intercept the Resolute. They were fast, armed with beams and missiles, all calculated to strike before humans could respond. Hale's eyes flicked to the railgun schematics. Time will betray them. We can engage multiple targets simultaneously without leaving the platform. Shield frequencies are irrelevant. They won't even see the impact until after it occurs. Rourke's mind wandered briefly to Helios Reach, to the lives already lost, to the futility of waiting for approval from beings who valued etiquette over survival. He clenched his fist once, letting it rest against the cold rail of the command chair. Humans survived because they adapted, not because they asked permission. "Fire sequence ready," Lieutenant Creel announced. "Awaiting your command." Rourke's gaze swept across the crew, each officer composed, confident, aware of their place in history. Then he looked at Hale, the architect of inevitability. "Do it," he said. A faint hum vibrated through the ship, subtle yet profound, the precursor to a force the galaxy had never witnessed. Outside the viewport, stars remained stubbornly in their positions, oblivious to the momentary bending of space-time that was about to occur. The first projectile exited the rail with no flare, no signature, no warning. On the Varkesh dreadnought, shields never flared, countermeasures never engaged. The tactical display blinked once, twice, then the dreadnought's schematics collapsed into a single, violent point of failure. Rourke leaned forward, voice measured but tinged with satisfaction. "It's done." Hale allowed himself a smile. "They'll call it instantaneous. I prefer punctual." The conclave observers, linked through secure communications, reacted with disbelief. Their instruments detected nothing, no energy spike, no warp disturbance, no conventional projectile in transit. Yet the dreadnought, their flagship, simply ceased to exist. Rourke turned to the crew. "Prepare for the next target. They'll adjust, but only as fast as causality allows. And remember, we end wars. We do not revel in destruction." Hale studied the railgun interface, adjusting calibrations for the next shot. "They'll remember this day," he said quietly. "But they won't understand it." Rourke's eyes scanned the stars once more, distant lights winking innocently as though nothing had happened. Humanity had proven that in a universe obsessed with speed, certainty mattered more. They had taken the first step toward becoming a species that did not wait for the future. They defined it. "Let them watch," Rourke said. "And let them wonder." Outside, the void remained silent, indifferent. But within that silence, a new reality had begun. The galaxy had been reminded that humans did not simply react to the stars, they commanded them. And for the first time, aliens across light years would question everything they thought they knew about war. The Varkesh fleet scrambled like startled hornets. Across multiple light seconds, their dreadnoughts and cruisers twisted and spun, trying to anticipate a threat that had already materialized before it was even detected. Commander Rourke observed through the viewport as distant vessels shuddered under the ghostly impact of the human railgun's first volley. No sensor flares, no warning blips, just instantaneous obliteration where previously there had been armor and firepower. Lieutenant Creel's voice cut through the hum of the EDS Resolute. "Multiple targets in vector range. All firing solutions verified. Probability of interception, 0%. Rourke nodded, his jaw tight. "Good. Let's remind them why humans never build defenses we cannot bypass." The first cruiser imploded in on itself before the alien crews could react. On board, energy conduits fused, gravity cores collapsed, and thousands of lives ceased without ceremony. To the conclave observers, linked remotely, it looked like some impossible quirk of physics, like the universe itself had judged the Dominion unworthy of continuation. Dr. Marcus Hale adjusted his console, eyes scanning the complex calculations in real time. Every strike lands before their countermeasures exist. Their shields oscillate uselessly in the past, targeting grids react to nothing. It's beautiful, in a grim sort of way. Rourke's hands rested lightly on the command rail. The universe is indifferent. It's not beauty we need, it's certainty. The enemy fleet attempted a coordinated jump, hoping to escape the slaughter. FTL drives flared in a desperate chorus, arcs of subspace bending to carry them out of reach. Rourke allowed a thin smile. "Predictable," he murmured. Hale's voice was sharp now, alive with scientific exhilaration. "They can't leave. The projectiles arrive along calculated exit vectors. Even their jumps are anticipated." Creel's tone carried the weight of both awe and fear. "Every jump point they choose, Commander, they won't make it." As the dreadnoughts attempted to flee, one by one, railgun slugs struck with the precision of inevitability. Hulls cored before their engines could engage, bridge sections vaporized before bridge crews could even comprehend danger. The battlefield, previously chaotic, became a tableau of ordered destruction, each vessel eliminated according to mathematical certainty, not chance. Rourke's mind briefly revisited Helios Reach. Every life lost there demanded this response, and humanity would deliver it without hesitation, without cruelty beyond necessity. "We do not hunt for sport," he said quietly. "We enforce consequence." The conclave observers were silent. Screens showed destruction without precedent. Reports streamed in, frantically compiled by analysts who could not reconcile their instruments with what they observed. "They strike before they fire," one Varkesh admiral muttered, incredulous. "Impossible. Our calculations, everything wrong." Rourke's voice, calm and unwavering, carried across the command deck. "You've spent centuries believing in inevitability. Today, you learn humans invented it." Hale adjusted targeting nodes for the next sequence. "All remaining threats can be neutralized simultaneously. Probability of failure, effectively zero." "Do it," Rourke said. "End this before it becomes theater." The railgun platform hummed, and once again, the void erupted in silent annihilation. The Dominion fleet was reduced to fragments, drifting debris that would never see repair, never fire another weapon. For the human observers aboard the Resolute, it was a moment of grim efficiency, a demonstration of what humanity had perfected. War delivered as certainty, not chaos. Creel exhaled, tension leaving him in slow, deliberate waves. "Fleet status. Neutralized. No human casualties." Rourke nodded. "Then the colony is free. Their soldiers may have been arrogant, but they are now irrelevant." Hale looked at him, eyes bright with a mixture of scientific triumph and ethical weight. "The conclave will not forget this day." "They may remember it," Rourke said, voice low, "but they won't understand it. Not yet." The fleet had fallen, but the galaxy had not yet learned the full lesson. One human ship, with one weapon platform, had demonstrated the impossible. And yet, Rourke knew, this was only the beginning. The true challenge would not be destroying enemy ships. It would be convincing the galaxy that humanity, now armed with inevitability itself, did not seek indiscriminate conquest. "Prepare communications," he ordered. "We need to establish terms before panic becomes war." Creel paused. "Commander, they'll want retaliation." "Let them," Rourke said. "We control the rules now. They cannot strike without certainty of failure." Hale stepped back from the console, rubbing his temples. "Do you realize what we just did? We've redefined the concept of deterrence. The universe won't be the same." Rourke's eyes swept the wreckage displayed on the tactical monitors. Tiny points of light drifted where ships had been, and he allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. Humanity had survived the galaxy's mockery, had endured countless invasions, and had been underestimated at every turn. Now, for the first time, humans had claimed the leverage they had always lacked. "And yet," he said softly, almost to himself, "we do not become them. We end wars. We do not perpetuate them." The final Varkesh vessel, a scout ship trying to flee, vanished in the same silent, inevitable fashion as the dreadnoughts. No alarms, no energy flares, just absence. Across the void, the galaxy blinked, and when it opened its eyes again, it would see that humanity did not fight like others. They fought like the arrow of certainty itself, unavoidable, precise, and merciless when necessary. Rourke turned to the crew, voice steady. "This is the way forward. Helios Reach is free. The Dominion understands the consequences. And we remind the galaxy that humans do not wait for the future, we define it. Outside the viewport, distant stars continued to burn with indifferent brilliance. Within the silence of the void, a new reality had begun to crystallize. Humans had shown what they could do when they refused to be bound by convention. The galaxy, for all its ancient pride and arrogance, had learned to fear inevitability. And humanity, for the first time in millennia, had become untouchable. The galaxy was silent in a way it had never been before. Across systems, across light years, the usual chatter of military comms, trade negotiations, and strategic posturing had stilled. The Varkesh Dominion, once a constellation-spanning empire, now existed only as memory and debris. Commander Elias Rourke watched the holographic display aboard the EDS Resolute, noting the absence of hostile signals. Humanity had demonstrated a principle the universe could not ignore. Certainty in war outweighed even speed and cunning. Dr. Marcus Hale approached, eyes scanning the tactical overview. "It's remarkable," he said. "We've recalculated their doctrines in real time. Every empire is reassessing everything they thought they knew about conflict." Rourke nodded, his expression calm yet deliberate. "They will adapt. They always do. But adaptation requires humility, and humility is rare among those who have ruled for millennia." Communications channels flickered to life, first hesitant, then insistent. Delegates of the conclave requested immediate audience. The human delegation, once dismissed as minor and inconsequential, now carried the weight of inevitable judgment. Lieutenant Creel adjusted the ship's course toward the conclave meeting station. "They're requesting terms, Commander. Directly. No preamble, no posturing." Rourke allowed himself a faint, controlled smile. "Good. Let them speak. We will respond with clarity, not vengeance." The conclave's chamber was just as imposing as he remembered, yet now, the atmosphere had shifted. Alien delegates no longer displayed amusement. Their expressions were taut with concern, frustration, and, in some cases, fear. The realization that humans wielded power beyond comprehension had redefined every hierarchy, every alliance. High Strategist Kothrix addressed the assembly, his tone measured, almost hesitant. "Commander Rourke, the conclave seeks understanding. Your actions have altered the balance of power. How do you intend to proceed?" Rourke stepped forward, shoulders squared. "We proceed with reason. Humanity does not conquer for pleasure, nor do we seek dominion over others. We wield power to prevent repetition of mistakes like Helios Reach. Borders, defense, and deterrence will suffice. Nothing more, nothing less." Murmurs ran through the assembly. Delegates exchanged incredulous glances. The concept was alien, a species powerful enough to annihilate fleets without warning, yet unwilling to claim territory or demand tribute. Dr. Hale added quietly, "We have built only a few platforms. Enough to enforce peace, not occupation. We are a species of pragmatists, not tyrants." Rourke allowed a moment to let the words sink in. The railgun is not a weapon of conquest. It is a lesson. Every civilization has the choice: pursue war or respect the certainty of consequence. Humanity will enforce the latter. For hours, the conclave debated, consulted, and recorded. When the session finally concluded, a document was ratified. All former aggressors were to dismantle offensive fleets beyond essential defense. Human territories were recognized without interference, and any future acts of hostility against humanity would be met with decisive retaliation. Creel exhaled, tension leaving him in slow waves. "They've agreed," he said, "without any actual fighting beyond Helios Reach." Rourke allowed himself a brief nod. "Peace through certainty is preferable to peace through fear. Remember that, Lieutenant. It is a lesson even humans sometimes forget." The Resolute left the conclave station, traveling back toward human space. Hale stood beside Rourke, watching the stars drift past in silent arcs. "Do you ever worry," he asked, "that we've made enemies who'll never forgive this lesson?" Rourke's gaze remained steady, distant yet grounded. Perhaps. But revenge cannot undo what has already occurred. The galaxy now knows that humanity does not wait for tomorrow. We act with precision, with inevitability, and that knowledge, more than any weapon, is our safeguard. In private moments, Rourke reflected on the cost of survival and the weight of responsibility. He had commanded the first strike, guided humanity's leap into an unprecedented era, and held the power to destroy fleets without opposition. Yet the moral compass he carried insisted restraint. The railgun was not a tool for domination. It was the embodiment of inevitability, applied only when required. As systems fell behind, Hale spoke again. "Do you think the Conclave truly understands humans now?" Rourke's expression hardened, thoughtful. "They understand enough to respect boundaries. They may never fully grasp our methods, our resilience, or our philosophy. And that is acceptable. Fear teaches caution, but understanding preserves peace." The Resolute approached Helios Reach, now fully restored. Its cities flickered back to life, rebuilt by survivors who had endured occupation and now returned to autonomy. Children laughed in streets that had known terror. Factories hummed as production resumed. Human resolve, tested and proven, had survived intact. Rourke watched, not as a conqueror, but as a guardian. "This is why we fight," he said softly. "Not for power, but for continuity. Not for glory, but for the chance to endure and teach others the value of restraint coupled with certainty." Hale smiled faintly. "The galaxy will remember the day humanity rewrote the rules. They may not understand, but they will never ignore us again. And that," Rourke said, turning from the viewport, "is sufficient. We have done what must be done and no more. We leave the galaxy alive, intact and cautious. That is victory." The stars stretched ahead, indifferent yet welcoming. Humanity had risen, not by the fastest ships, nor by the largest fleets, nor by technology alone. They had risen by mastering inevitability itself. And across the endless void, one truth resonated. In a universe obsessed with speed, humans had weaponized certainty, and that certainty would shape every horizon to come. The galaxy had blinked, and humanity, at last, was untouchable.